it's time for Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. It's an all-good vibes spin-off of the Dennis Anyone podcast. I'm your announcer, AI comedy announcer Ed. And now here's your host, Dennis Hensley.
Welcome to Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. That was AI comedy announcer Ed. Of all the AI voices, I chose that for this week because, Stephen Colbert's show is getting canceled, and there's a lot of talk about late night maybe on the way out. So when I heard that voice, the demo of Happy and Gay, I was like, okay, let's do a little homage to late night television with AI announcer Ed. Yeah, I like the way he drags out words. So anyway, once a month or so, I'm going to drop one of these bonus episodes in my regular Dennis Anyone feed so you guys can get an idea of what this bonus thing is like and then maybe hopefully subscribe. This is my Patreon and Substack bonus thing. I do it once a week. I muse on various things about pop culture and what I'm up to, look back at magazines, and then I try to end every episode with something about happiness, a subject that I'm very interested in, what the science shows, and various tools and tricks that have helped me in that world. So that's what this is, and we're going to get on with it with our first segment.
And now it's time for So This Happened.
Okay, so this happened. I think the big event of this past week was an old friend of mine came to Los Angeles, Monica Moya. She is from Spain. She lives in Mallorca, and we danced together on a couple of different cruise ships over about a year period in the it would have been the early 90s. Yeah. So 1990, whatever. So I haven't seen her in 35 years, basically. And she came to town with her boyfriend, Lorenzo, and I saw her two different occasions. We got a group of Princess people together for a happy hour, drinks and nosh and catch-up fest at BJ's in Glendale, on, I think it was Thursday night when she got into town. And, it's been 35 years since I've seen her, and it felt like 5. We were all a little bewildered by the way time was occurring and how it felt. And I brought a couple of my photo albums. I did a bunch of photo albums when I was working on the ships, and I really chronicled that time. I have a gazillion of them, and they're all art directed to Jesus, cut out magazine headlines and things like that. And I grabbed a couple of them that I thought people would be in, and it was just so interesting to look back and remember the people and remember what we looked like and how we felt and what that time was like. And, I look back on those cruise ship days, and there were people that maybe I didn't like as much as other people, or there were little petty disagreements, but nobody really had any real problems. Our biggest problem was we got in trouble because we showed up late for the chicken dance at Sail Away when you're supposed to do, and a little bit of that with the passengers or something like that, or you were supposed to sew sweat shields into your costumes, and I didn't do it. I remember telling the line captain, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I don't know how to do it, so I'm going to get someone to do it. That was the biggest problem. We didn't have real problems. I remember, I don't know, in the mid-2000s, I had my first kind of really psychologically complex falling out with a friend where it just felt unsavable, where it was just, there was a darkness to it, and that happened in 2005. So that was my first kind of friend thing that felt like you couldn't talk it out or it would blow over or something like that. And so I went pretty long without one of those, I guess, in my life. So I'm grateful for that. But man, those cruise ship days, how carefree they were, and so it was just amazing to reflect on that. And there were other people that were there that I hadn't seen in 20 years maybe, or some of the other people that live in LA. But it was amazing to look back on that. And then I mentioned last week that I was able to get Monica and Lorenzo free passes for Universal Studios through my friend Christopher, and they went and did that on Thursday. And then on Friday, Lorenzo went to Disneyland because he wanted to do the Star Wars thing, and there was a whole lot of strategizing as how does he do it? I know you have to have the app and you have to go there right away, and Like, we were really trying to strategize for him so he didn't miss out, because I know it's a very popular thing, and I hadn't been there in a while. And so we're downloading the app, and he doesn't speak that much English, and we're doing this all on Wednesday night. And then it worked out that he was able to see and do everything he wanted to do. It went well. So while he was down in Disneyland, Monica met me at the Academy Museum in Los Angeles, in the Mid-Wilshire area, like the Miracle Mile area. And she was staying at a bed and breakfast in Culver City, and I thought, she'll take an Uber and meet me there. She walked. You guys, she was always a walker. She would walk like crazy. So she walked from Culver City to the Academy Museum and loved it. She's tall and long legs and walks. Like, I'm not surprised, but I was like, yeah, that's a ways. So the Academy Museum was really cool. They had this Barbie art directors. The team that art directed Barbie had an exhibit of a lot of their stuff, including Barbie. And it was fun to see their, mood boards and everything that they were thinking. And they did this movie, Anna Karenina, in 2012. Joe Wright directed it. And I guess the whole thing is set in a theater. I never saw it. I think Keira Knightley's in it. But seeing this exhibit made me want to see that. So I want to check that out. And it was fun to go to the Academy Museum. And then we went downtown, and I took Monica to the Last Bookstore, which I thought it was on one corner, and we walked there, and it was a building that looked kind of like I remember the Last Bookstore looking, and it was closed. And I was like, oh my God, it's closed. It's closed. And I was like, I don't think it is. So I had the wrong corner. So we found it. And it's such a cool bookstore. It's just, I also love that there's boxes of books stacked everywhere, because they've got more than they know what to do with. And it's fun. It's a vibe. And then we took the little funicula up to from the Grand Central Market to like the street above. And it's very cute. It's in La La Land, if you know that movie. And it's $1.50, and it's cute. And then we walked by Disney Hall, so we got to see that architecture. And it's like the Guggenheim in Spain, so it was reminiscent of a style that she had seen in her own country, which was cool. And then Los Angeles does this thing every summer, these dance parties downtown at the Music Center. They cover up the fountain with a dance floor, and one week it's salsa, and one week it's swing, and one week it's reggaeton or whatever. And then this was the last one of this season. It was disco. And I've been wanting to go to one of these things forever, and I've never gone. And so that's where Monica and I ended up on her last night in LA. And it rocked, you guys. Like, these downtown LA dance parties are fun as hell, man. They really do it right, and it's free, and it's just all of these different people from the city. Like, it's not gay or straight, or it's not any certain race or any kind of clique or anything like that. It's not rich or poor. It's like free. And it just felt it made me really proud of Los Angeles. It made me like, look at my city, showing up like this in this amazing way. And there was this guy who taught a line dance, a hustle, that was actually kind of ambitious for like a party for amateur dancers and stuff like that. I think he was a gay guy, but he was really funny. And so we learned our dancing and just danced a lot under the stars outside with all these fellow Angelinos. I ran into a few friends there. That was really cool. And it was just awesome. And then Monica said, I hadn't danced in so long. Like, she used to be a dancer, and she doesn't do that anymore. And so it was really just a fun thing. So next summer I'm going to go to a bunch more of those parties, because they're pretty special. And people had picnics and pets and dancing, and it was really cool. So next year I'm going to really step it up with the DTLA dance nights in the summer, because it was super fun. What else happened this week? I had an eye doctor's appointment last Sunday, and the eye doctor, I went sooner than I normally do. It had been about a year since my last test, but I wasn't seeing well through my contacts or whatever. And I was like, what's up? So the eye doctor suggested that I might be a good candidate for cataract surgery, which hadn't occurred to me. And so instead of giving me a new contacts prescription, she gave me my regular prescription. And then I reached out to Kaiser my insurance to see if we could start that process of seeing if I'm eligible. So on Friday, before I met up with Monica, I had an appointment with an ophthalmologist. So they did some tests, and I have to go 4 weeks without wearing my contacts. And then I'm going to go back, and they're going to do a test, and then I have to go 2 more weeks. And if the change within those 2 weeks isn't too dramatic, then they'll look possibly to scheduling the surgery. So I want to do this now if I can, because I don't know what my health insurance situation is going to be next year. I know my rate is going way up, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford it because of the big, beautiful bill. And also because it just is going to go up. So I don't know what's going to happen. So I may be getting cataract surgery. And all of this means that I have to do the Xanadu Q&A with my glasses next week. And I am the mismatch game with my glasses. And I don't always feel as, I don't feel as attractive. I feel like there's a barrier, but it's okay. I took a dance class yesterday with my glasses for the first time, and they almost flew off when I was doing my pirouettes. But I managed, and I'm very... the people that describe this cataract surgery say it's just great, and they come out of it and they can see. And I've had really bad vision, nearsightedness all my life. Like, I remember when I was like 17 and I gave my prescription to the, place where they do your glasses and contacts, and the clerk made a face and she's like, "Oh." And I said, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Oh, I've just never seen anyone as young as you with eyes this bad." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. That's nice." Like, I think because I've always had them, I don't realize how bad they are on the scale of badness, but they're pretty bad. So anyway, those are the things that happened. So I'm going to talk a little more about my day with Monica in the last section, because I'm going to talk about friendship in the happiness chunk. So we'll save a little bit of that for later. And on with the next segment.
And now it's time for You Gotta Get On This, Dennis's pop culture picks of the week.
Okay, my first pop culture pick is a movie on HBO Max that has actually been out a little while, but I watched it when I wasn't feeling well a few weeks ago, and I forgot to talk about it. It's Mountaintop, written and directed by Jesse Armstrong from Succession, and I'm a big fan of Succession and his writing, so I was curious to see it. And it's about these 4 tech moguls who end up in this, gorgeous mansion house on top of a mountain, and the way they hang out together while all of these things that they've caused with their technology are having real damages in the world. And they're all, up in this mountain being bros. I enjoyed the writing of it, and the acting is good, and the ideas are interesting and prescient. Jason Schwartzbaum is in it, Steve Carell, Rama Youssef. But my favorite actor, I think, in it was Corey Michael Smith, who I've seen in a few things. He played Chevy Chase in the movie about Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night, and he's so good. And anyway, he plays a character called Venice in this one, and I just liked his acting. I found him fascinating. And my favorite part of the movie was, at one point near the middle, a few of them decide that they're going to try to do something that is kind of a crime. And the bumbling way with which they approach this thing is so funny, and it's so indicative of, like, these guys rule the universe, right? They have more money than God. They control so much of everyone else's life, but they probably couldn't order lunch if you asked them to. Like, their skill set is very narrow. And so the bumbling part of that I thought was well observed and cool, and definitely worth a look. Mountainhead on HBO Max. And the other thing I want to talk about is a movie that's a little older than that. Last night, my friend Mark and his friend Carrie, who was visiting from out of town, and my roommate Penelope and I went to see Pretty Woman, the 35th anniversary screening, because it came out in 1990. So, 35th anniversary. They had an outdoor screening through Street Food Cinema, and it was at the Equestrian Center where they actually shot the polo scene from Pretty Woman. And so this movie is one I've seen quite a lot because it was in my book screening party. So I wrote about watching it with my friends, and when I wrote that book, I had to watch the movie over and over to get all the details right and everything like that. And but I haven't seen it in a long time. And it was really engaging. I was really into it. I kept thinking of jokes from the book that I would remember because, man, that was so ingrained at that time. But, man, Richard Gere and Julia Roberts are just magic by themselves and also especially together. And I paid more attention to Richard Gere's storyline about the business stuff that he was doing than I used to do when I was writing about it. Like, it was all about Julia. It was the star-making Julia Roberts performance. And it'd be like, oh, he has a boring office scene, and now Julia gets to shop. Like, but it was very prescient, like his business stuff, because he played a guy that broke up companies that were struggling and then sold them for parts. Like, it was kind of a scavenger, like a corporate raider or whatever. And we become more and more aware of those kinds of venture capitalists and people that like take advantage of situations to cash in and destroy things that are people's businesses or people's livelihoods. They don't care. Right. And so this was an early, at least in my experience, depiction of that kind of a person. And he struggles with it in the movie, because he's been introduced to Vivian and she lights something up in him. And he's like, maybe I don't want to destroy shit for my job and get rich from it. Maybe it might be better to try to create something or build something or be part of that. So that was kind of interesting to think about. I still maintain he has the best walk in Hollywood, but he had a lot of depth to his performance, and so did she. And, you know, at the time, it was kind of this joke, like, everyone loves this rom-com, but she's a hooker, like she's a prostitute. And even the discourse around it was like, that it's really bad to be a prostitute and prostitution is bad and it's only something desperate people do. And he has a respectable job and she doesn't. And I would argue that he's the one with the gross job. At least she's, bringing some pleasure to people, or, like she's helping somebody and not destroying things. So that resonated a little differently, but it was a Disney Touchstone movie. And so D23, the big Disney brand, was one of the sponsors of this special screening. So there was Disney branding everywhere. And if you were D23, you got a special seat. And they had 3 costumes from the movie that you could go look at and have your picture taken with. And my friend Mark, we had the dogs with us, which was delightful. They behaved pretty well. Enzo loves it. And so we went in shifts to see the costumes. And Mark went first, and he texted me, and he said, they have 3. And I said, let me guess what they are. So I guessed the red dress, I guessed the polka dot polo match outfit, and I guessed the blue little skirt thing with the high-waisted boots that she wears in the early scenes. And I got 2 out of 3 right. It was the red dress and the blue hooker thing with the white top, and they had like one of her shopping dresses when she got respectable. So we got to see those costumes and take pictures with them. And then, there was a bunch of people dressed up, inspired by Pretty Woman. There were so many brown polka dot dresses on the women, and they did a group shot, and maybe I'll use that as the art for this podcast. There was a group shot of all the people that had dressed up for Pretty Woman. There was a woman sitting next to us named Tiffany who nailed it with the brown polka dotted dress. It wasn't the exact Julia dress, but it was evocative of that, and it looked really good on her. And of course, she had the white shoes, and yeah. So that movie plays great, man. I can see why people love it. And there is something about it that says, I'm more than just my current circumstances. I'm more than I might be in this place, but I can be more than that. I can change. I can, I'm not stuck in this life that doesn't fulfill me. I've got multitudes in me, as it were. But I did love that. It reminded me of like when I was on the cruise ships, we would go to Ketchikan, Alaska, and there would be this tour where there were kind of like old-timey homespun tour people, but it was basically brothels. And they were like, and this is, the brothel. But I just would love it if these people that were the guides would be like, and this is where they would suck the cocks, but this, if you wanted to fuck, you'd go into this room. Like, I'd love it if they got really graphic with their depictions instead of like, oh, cute hookers from the past. Sometimes they'd beat them, like they never do that. It's always like cute hookers, and Pretty Woman is a little like that. And, I wanted the Disney person to go up there. Hey, D23 folks. What's your favorite scene? My favorite scene's when she blows him. Like, I would love to mix the Disney energy with just sexual transactions. So there's that. But anyway, the movie holds up. It was a treat to see it out there. I love Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, national treasures both. And there's that.
And now it's time for Remember Magazines. Tough, they were a thing.
All right, this week in my magazine section, I don't have a flashback magazine to look at, but I have some exciting news. I did my first interview and written piece for a magazine in probably 8 years, maybe longer. This week, I did a piece for Emmy Magazine. I interviewed a woman named Bozoma St. John. She is a marketing expert. She's been CEO or CFO or CMO, one of the C's. She's been in a lot of C-suites for big companies like Apple Music and Netflix and Uber. And then she became a real housewife of Beverly Hills in its 14th season, the most recent season. And she's going to be on a new reality show with Jimmy Fallon called On Brand with Jimmy Fallon about marketing and advertising. And it's like Project Runway. And the contestants are trying to come up with good ideas for existing companies like Dunkin' Donuts and Pillsbury or whatever. And there's always a new challenge. And Bozoma is like the Tim Gunn of the show. And she was a delight. We did the interview over Zoom, and she just had a lot of exuberance. She was very authentic. I could see why people want her to be on their shows. And I really loved the conversation. And then I wrote the piece, you guys. I wrote a magazine piece, and it was thrilling. It felt so good. And I remember, I used to do the quotes, and then I would pick the quotes that I wanted to use, and then I would write, and then I would print it out, and then I would use a red pen, and then I would edit it, and it was such a pleasure to write it. So hopefully they're happy, and hopefully they'll send me some more assignments. But it was a thrill. Remember magazines, they are a thing. They are a thing. They're still a thing in some quarters. So I was very happy to have that experience, and I will let you know when it comes out.
And now it's time for Come On Get Happy, musings on the science of happiness.
Okay, for this week's happiness chunk, I want to talk about friendship, which has always been a very important thing to me. My friends are kind of the loves of my life. They're the primary relationships. I don't have a lot of family living, and I don't live near them, and we have fine relationships, but they're not a day-to-day thing. I'm not in a romantic relationship, so my friends are pretty much the whole game. And friendship has always been something that was so front and center for me. Like, movies about friendships are very moving to me. They're more likely to make me cry than almost anything else in terms of themes. So I was thinking about it because Scott Galloway, who is a podcaster and somebody that I follow, who I find quite interesting, he put out a special episode of his show, or one of his episodes was about friendship, and there were some statistics in there that were staggering about men specifically. That I'll give you an example of one of them. That 3 decades ago, 55% of men that were part of this survey said that they had at least 6 close friends. And today that number is 27%. And there are 15% of men that say they have 0 friends in this survey. And there's a million reasons for that. But, Martin Seligman, who is thought of as the sort of the father of positive psychology, talks about positive relationships being one of the most important things in determining somebody's happiness, more than other things like money and almost anything. And so friendships, as you get older, I find I cherish them more. And I also, I have friends that there are little things about them that maybe annoy you. And I'm sure I have that with my other friends. And I just sort of accept things more. I'm just like, that's them and that's fine. I don't think well, this person is always like this. Should I write them off or whatever? I think you need as many friends as you can get. And, or when somebody's like, I have enough friends. When people say that, I always think, who you do? I don't think you can have enough friends. And also people move and pass and, things change. So I had a friend during the pandemic that I used to play tennis with, and she moved away, so I never play tennis. And I had a friend that I used to hike with, and he moved away, and now I never hike. So there are ripple effects to friendships. And so I think there's something that's really worth investing in. And there's this famous study about happiness, the Harvard study of adult development. And it's been going on for many, many years. And they tracked all of these different people through their lives. And the study found that the number one thing for happiness and also longevity is friendships and relationships. Not wealth, not fame, not IQ, not anything like that. But the thing that determined longevity and well-being was relationships and friendships, lovers, family. But it's about the people. It's about the people. And so I found in my own life, I've approached friendship a little bit differently. Things that I might not have accepted before, or I would have pushed up against, I don't sweat so much anymore. Like, I had a friend that I was quite close to for a period of a few years. And then this friend decided he just didn't want to be my friend anymore. And there was cold. He went just cold, didn't return my texts or calls or anything like that. And I got together with him and we had coffee and we talked about it. And yeah, he acknowledged that he had sort of blown me off. And all I remember about the conversation, this was many years ago, was that he thought I was negative. And that was part of the reason that he didn't want to be around me. And so I said, okay. And then we kind of got back on track for a while. And then he did it again. He just stopped being my friend. And I didn't pursue him after that. I was like, okay, once bitten, twice shy. I don't know. You can't get fooled again, as George Bush would say. So anyway, I just kind of let it go. And it's been many, many years since then. And we reconnected in the last year or so over something online, a little thing like an app or something like that. And I invited him to a thing and just said, hey, this thing is happening if you want to come. And he came. And we've hung out a handful of times since then, not a ton, but a bit. And we never acknowledged. I never was like, hey, what was that about? I mean, there's a part of me that feels like I would be justified in doing that. But I also don't know. I don't know. I just get a read that like, no, don't just, this is fine. I wouldn't trust him as deeply as I would say other friends, I mean, I did have the experience, but I'm okay with being his friend. And I think forgiveness, I guess, is part of my values in the last few years. Like I find real value in that. Trying is the other one. I like trying and forgiveness. I'm big champions of both of those in the last few years. Like they're my things. And so when I spend time with this person, it's interesting. Like I can see it a little bit from the outside, but I still enjoy the company. There's interesting history there, inside jokes, things that come up. And I feel grateful for it. And I don't need to be right. I mentioned Scott Galloway earlier, but he actually talks about this idea a fair amount on his different podcasts. This idea of like keeping score in relationships. Like I give so much more than I get from this relationship, or why am I always the one that does this and that? Like always keeping score of like giving and getting, who's giving and getting. And he said he got a lot happier and his relationships got a lot better when he just kept keeping score. If he brings more to the party in a certain relationship and it doesn't ever look like it's not going to be that way, fine. It's fine. And I think that's right. I think it's what kind of friend you want to be. It's about who you're being. It doesn't matter what you get. I go back to that little motto all the time. So I don't know. I think sometimes people will say, oh, I have enough friends, or they'll date somebody and they're like, they just want to be friends. I have enough friends. Like, I never say that. And I also like when people are on reality shows and they're like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm like, I am. Like, I think it's like all those little turns of phrase that people say about friends. I'm the opposite of them. One of the other things that Scott Galloway talked about recently on this friendship podcast was that when he meets people and they're the kind of people that he would like to be friends with, he tries to make that happen. And sometimes he'll do it quite boldly, like, hi, I know you don't know me, but I want to be friends. And there's somebody that I've met in the last 6 months that I want to do that to. I feel an affinity for them. I like what they're about. They're kind. I've witnessed their kindness in small interactions. I'm attracted to them as well, but that isn't the main goal. Maybe because I feel like that's not going to happen, but maybe it would. I don't know. I don't think it would. But I want to literally say to them, I want to be your friend. And so I'm figuring out a way to get the courage to do that. It does feel like a risk. Hey, I want to be friends with you. Can that happen? Like, I feel like I want to do that with this person, and I'm a little nervous about it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. I want to do it. I feel like being bold and stuff, that's another part of my value system. So I may do it. I'll keep you posted, guys, and I'll let you know how it goes. The other thing I want to talk about is when my friend Monica was here. 35 years since I'd seen her. It felt like 5. And there's a dynamic of being with her that came right back. She's very determined and capable. And like, she'll walk from Culver City to Mid-Wilshire, or she'll do things like, she was like that way on the ship. And we did these cruise shows a few times for the crew, special shows that we would put together with our own material. There was a couple of them that I kind of spearheaded, and they were so meaningful to me. I got so into them. I choreographed things and brought people in and different acts and produced it. And it was kind of the Dennis show, if I'm being honest. Like, I sang a song. Like, it was a little, like, I'm sure there was some eye rolling going on. But I remember getting a kind of fever, a creative fever, and not being able to sleep and being so excited about these shows we were going to do. So for the first one, Monica and I, we did a dance to Janet Jackson's Black Cat. And I had done a combination to it when I was in LA in a class taught by Liz Imperio. So there were like maybe 4 counts of 8 or however many, like not a long, like maybe a chorus worth or whatever that I did in class. So I kind of took that and then expanded on it. And Monica and I did this whole number. We had chairs and the whole thing. And we did it one time and we worked on it for weeks. And I think it's actually on YouTube. I may try to post it up on my Facebook page, because I think as a dance thing that I've done, it's the thing I'm most proud of in terms of like, wow, that was cool and long and you kind of killed it. And Monica and I did that together. She's determined, and she, like, when she sets her mind to something, she does it. And we had lunch during this day that we spent together, and she left dancing a few years after she left the ships and went back to school and became an engineer. She's an engineer, you guys, and she works for this company in Spain that they create gadgetry for hotels and devices and things like that. And so they're testing them out, and she's supervising a team of people that does it. And that's what she does now. You know, we were talking over lunch, and I was sort of saying about, you know, my journey of like really following my creative instincts and letting that lead the way, and struggling sometimes with making a living and all of that stuff. And whereas I never saw the off-ramp to engineering or to that other thing. And she remarked that she said she thought I was brave. She said it twice. And it really struck me, and it moved me, actually. I get moved thinking about it, because it didn't feel like bravery, but I guess it was. And so I'm just thinking about that concept. It's just so great to reconnect with somebody after so long, and to feel like the core of what made you like them initially and like each other, the core of that friendship is still there, and it's strong. Like, it comes right back. And she invited me to visit her in Mallorca, which is definitely going on the dream board. And I want to give a shout out to friendship generally, you know. And I'm looking at Enzo right now, my dog, on my bed, and he went to the screening last night of Pretty Woman, and like, he's such a good friend. Like, when I think about that man's best friend thing that people say about dogs, yeah, he's such a good friend. I always feel like he's on my side, you know, and I think part of what I've struggled with over, I don't know, maybe all my life a little bit, I've talked about this a bit, is like feeling a bit like nothing in the world was meant for me. Like it's just what I can finagle. Like I don't have a lot of stories of like meeting my soulmate or landing in the job thing. I don't have a lot of those. I've observed them in other people and sometimes even helped facilitate other people's things. But I feel like I have it with Enzo. I feel like he was meant for me in a way, and in a way that I don't feel about many other things in my life, maybe anything. So friends, man, they're the whole ball of wax, I think. And the data shows that. So I think that's really interesting. All right. Before I let you go, there's one final thing I forgot to mention. And so this happened. So I created a party game a few years ago called You Don't Know My Life with my friend Jeb Havens. Well, we have a new game that we're coming out with. It's called Search Party, and it's going to come out this fall. And we've started taking pre-orders so we can have the games printed. And unlike You Don't Know My Life, this is just a really fun deck of cards that you use. And then the other equipment that you need for it is your phone. So it's a fun deck of cards, and you can pre-order the game at youdon'tknowmylife.com/search party. And you can help us make this dream a reality. And you'll get a really fun game in time for hopefully Thanksgiving. That's the plan. And I hope you do it. And then I hope you play it with your friends, which brings together everything. It ties the whole episode up with a bow. All right. That's enough for this week. Say goodbye, comedy announcer Ed.
Good night, AI comedy announcer Ed.